Okay, so I want to know right now, how many tabs do you have open in your brain? At any given time, I feel like I have at least 75, and it consists of work and what I'm planning to do the next day, what I'm going to have for dinner or whatnot. Um, am I reminding myself to drink water? I wake up in this constant fear that I am forgetting one of my friends or loved ones' birthdays. Like consistently every week, I have to check my phone and my calendar. I'm curious if you've ever been here. It's 2 a.m. and your mind is doing TED Talks that you have never signed up for. And what I mean by that is maybe earlier that day you saw something online that while you were scrolling and you got this insane idea in your head to start like a side hustle. Like now you want to be an interior designer just out of nowhere. And before you know it, you are buying the website domain, you are creating the Instagram account, and you're in hyperfocus mode, just researching this big idea that you have. Or, other side of the coin is maybe it's a project at work and you're like, oh my God, this is the best idea ever. Surely they will promote me to CEO after this. I need to execute, and I need to execute immediately. And then it's 5 a.m. You've barely gotten any sleep, and in like 90 minutes, you have to get up and get ready for work or get the kids ready for school, and you're dragging your feet through the day. And suddenly that vision that you had, that you saw so clearly at 2 a.m., it just seems out of reach. And it's because you're tired, you're exhausted, you've got so much on your plate already that imposter syndrome starts settling in, and the self-doubt is in your ear like, rah. And you can't do this. And you're like, okay, maybe I should just give up. I don't know. First of all, we're not having any of that negative self-talk. Second of all, if you don't give yourself the space to turn your brain off, you might never finish what you start. If you're doubting yourself, my very first episode of this podcast is about imposter syndrome. So if you haven't checked that out, you should go back and give it a listen. I have resources for that too that I'll put in the description of this episode. But what if you have such a bad case of burnout that you don't finish what you started, or worse, you don't even start that thing that you wanted to start? We can't let that happen. Hey there, I'm Melody Bose, your host of Jeans with a Blazer, a podcast about rewriting the rules of work and life. So something I want to get out of the way right away is overthinking is not a flaw. There is nothing wrong with you for overanalyzing and trying to get 27 steps ahead before you even take step one. Your brain and how you think, that's not the problem. The problem is you just may never have learned how to care for a mind that never stops creating. So that's what we're going to do in this episode. It's all about romanticizing the reset, doing the small but important rituals to shift your energy and get you back to baseline so you can do your thing. If you're listening to this and not watching this, I am not in my business casual, business professional. I am in a cozy sweater, and I would encourage you to do the same thing. Maybe you're at work or in the car and you can't do that, but imagine maybe you have one in your trunk or your purse or whatnot. But this episode is not going to be about tough love. We're slowing down. We're learning how to embrace the softness. And why would we want to do that? Because softness is just as important. It helps you tune into yourself. It helps you tune into your surroundings, notice more, be more intentional. Finding softness will help truly sharpen your mind and listen more actively and give you a chance to recharge so you do not burn out. And I know this is starting to sound like a little like woo, warm and fuzzies, but it's important, and just trust me on this one. Something that is difficult to do when your mind is in hyperdrive and you're go, go, go to the next thought. If you work hard and you're in that grind culture every single day, you may not give yourself ease. Even worse, you might feel guilty for when you do take a break, and that's not okay either. Not in my house, not in your rules. We're rewriting them, we're flipping the script, so put on some cozy socks. Or if you're at work listening to this, grab yourself something warm or iced to sip on, and let's mosey our way into self-care for creatives and professionals. So let's set the record straight and bust some myths about rest that people assume. Number one, rest is not productive. You don't need to earn rest. Your nervous system isn't a machine. You're not a robot yet, but it needs rhythms and not deadlines. So you don't need to like work towards getting rest. Like you're already there. You've earned it. Number two, you don't need a like 7-step routine or a perfect routine. You need a few just powerful tools that work, and more importantly, that work for you. I love me a good get ready with me video, or, just videos with creators with their routines, and routines are good. They add structure. We all kind of need that a little bit, but if you start micromanaging your self-care, then you're defeating the point, and we don't want that either. Stillness is not the enemy. And for many of us, stillness feels scary because it's unfamiliar. But just because something is unfamiliar, that doesn't mean it's unsafe. So I will hold your hand through this because it's really important, and you'll feel better because of it. All right. I usually go into a story time, and eventually I'll start sharing stories other than mine. But I'll keep your name anonymous if you want to share a career fail or lesson that you think would be impactful. I love to share it with the audience. DM me on social media at jeanswithablazer, or send me an email, hello@jeanswithablazer.com. All right, it was 2016. I was going through a breakup, and it was a rough one, as breakups are. During that time, I was also going through a yoga teacher certification program. It was part of this path of self-discovery I was on. And the program was 10 months long, and part of the commitment of that program was, in addition to doing side quests and practicing yoga throughout the week, it was meeting one weekend a month, Saturday and Sunday, from like 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. And I wasn't just all doing yoga poses and teaching the classes, but studying the yoga theory and the 8 limbs, anatomy, muscle groups. It was very, very intensive. A lot of soft skills that we worked on too. So this particular weekend, it was 2 days after my breakup. I did not want to go. I wanted to skip it so bad. But the whole thing about the training was it's about showing up. You show up for yourself, you show up for your future students, you stand in your integrity. So against every muscle fiber in my being, I went. And everyone knew I was struggling because I had shared that I was having a really hard time in my personal life. But that particular weekend, the area of yoga that we were studying was something called yin. And if you don't know what yin is, it's basically a slow restorative type of yoga where you hold poses for 3 to 5 minutes, and they're not challenging poses per se, like in the physically demanding sense. Like you're not like holding a headstand for 5 minutes or chair pose for 5 minutes. It's more just like a mental jujitsu that you go through. And here's why. So it doesn't matter if you're not into yoga or, the woo part of it, that's fine. This isn't about that. It applies to everyone. But up until I took the teaching certification, what yoga meant to me was fitness, power classes, how much I could sweat and move and feel exhausted by the end of it, and just get a good workout in. But yin is all about finding that moment of discomfort. And what do we do when we experience discomfort? Our first instinct is to back away from that, to find comfort. Yin don't play like that. Yin invites you to explore that space of discomfort and see what you discover on the other side. So it's very like, oh, so much is happening. You're kind of facing your terrors and your worst nightmares within this, meat suit of your body. And all this stuff is kind of going on in your mind that you don't even realize. But it's in that discomfort that, you learn a lot about yourself. And I was so resistant that weekend. I was like, I don't want to sit in stupid child's pose for 4 stupid minutes. I just want to go drown my sorrows in a margarita. And let me tell you, what I learned about myself after that weekend, it was just how much I needed to sit with my stillness. How much I needed to face that discomfort instead of run away from it. And I have truly had nothing but respect for the practice since, because while not necessarily physically demanding, it does a number just on you, just emotionally. Highly recommend. And what I learned about that is sometimes the things that you resist most are actually what you need the most. So food for thought. All right, so let's get into some ways that we can embrace comfort and coziness as a creative to find that peace. So number one, routines. I'm the type of person that gets very bored easily, but routines make me feel human and grounded. So I'll say this, don't try and force yourself to fit into a routine that someone recommends, or some people are like, wake up at 5 a.m., go for a run, come back, chug a gallon of celery juice, read a book cover to cover, perform life-changing cleft palate surgery, if that's you, do that. Do all of that. If those things bring you joy and make you feel 2 inches taller and expansive, and that's your truth, then good for you, pop off. But everyone's different, and we all have different needs and preferences, hormones, things going on in our bodies. So the things that bring us joy, I'd love for you to focus on that first. Start with those micro moments of joy and just continue building from there. And if you can't do it every day, that's okay. Your routine is allowed to adapt and change, and surprise, it'll be there. If you step away from it, if you go on vacation for a week or whatever, or just have a moment where you're just I can't do a routine and, I can barely get out of bed, then your routine will be there when you come back. So I'm not even going to suggest a morning routine because I want you to pick what's best for you. Maybe you don't want to prioritize your morning. Maybe you can't because you have other commitments, the job, kids, and maybe you're a caregiver. So morning, that's just not a good time for you. Maybe you're just a night owl, and maybe that's just where you would find your coziness best. No rules in this house. That's the point. The rule is that there are no rules. So ask yourself, if you're not sure, ask yourself, what would make you feel good in this moment? What action could you take to bring yourself more ease and more coziness? I'll give you some examples. So in the morning, while I am not a morning person, I very often have very early AM calls. So I kind of have to be, but mornings, when I can, I love the ritual of making coffee or tea. I got a job as a barista when I was 16, and I just really fell in love with the whole coffee process and the espresso beans. It's very coffee to me reminds me of people. They all have their different personalities or their different roasts, and then you have your teas, which are just a whole other elite thing. Love my matcha, love it. I don't do the the Nespresso pods. It's just not for me. I like the actual ritual of brewing in a mocha pot, or that little stir thingy to froth my milk for matcha. It brings me so much joy just to create that beverage and then to just drink it. Even if it's just 5 minutes or I'm on the run or I take it with me, that is such an important part for me. Okay, so afternoon, something that brings me joy is if I'm just sitting for too long. I have a walking pad, so I will just literally especially if I have a creative block. And maybe for just creatives, it helps to kind of step away from what you're doing and put yourself in a different activity to get your mind out of that so that you can kind of hit refresh. But a walking pad is awesome because even if it's just 5 minutes, I'll walk, move my body, and then I'll feel different afterwards. So that's what I love to do. Evening. Oh, okay. Evening, I have different levels of just coziness, depending on how much I need. I have a full basically I call it a teddy bear suit, but it's not. That sounds kind of weird. But it's just this very cozy, comfy outfit with matching comfy socks. And it's when it's on the moments where I'm okay, this week has kicked my butt. I just need to vibe, chillin', just teddy bear outfit. I have a weighted blanket, a very fluffy duvet, and just other stuff, and just being able to cozy up and curl up and have those times for myself, that's what's important. All right, moving on. Thing number 2, take time for play. I was watching this movie, Knocked Up. It's hilarious, a Judd Apatow film with Seth Rogen and Paul Rudd are in it. And in this scene, they're sitting on a bench, and Paul Rudd's character's daughter, she's playing in a park, chasing bubbles from this bubble wand. And Paul Rudd says something along the lines of like, I wish I liked anything as much as my kid loves bubbles. And he's basically commenting on the fact that, kids find joy in the simplest things, and implying that as we get older, we lose that playfulness. And so that feels so deflating, because like somewhere along the way, life hardens us, or our experiences rob us of this pure joy that we have for life. And it doesn't have to be like that. And I know that can sound free-spirited and no worries, Hakuna Matata, blah, blah, blah. But you don't have to be sitting under a waterfall in Bali to get that feeling of joy and inner child play. By all means, go to Bali if you can. Let me know. But I'm talking about just kind of the more accessible micro moments here that you can bring joy to. And just like the routine thing, everyone is different there. But here are some examples. This is such a little kid thing. So sitting on the floor and drawing like you did when you were a kid. I mean, that's at least what I did. It was zero pressure to be good at it, right? We attach objectives and goals to everything. And especially like being in marketing, like everything you do, there's like data and tests and analysis and blah, blah, blah. And just doing things just for the sake of doing it because it's fun. Like, why not? Oh, I like this too. Putting on a playlist and dancing while you do the dishes. There's truly nothing more like rom-com coded than putting on like a playlist and feeling like your life is changing in that moment. And the thing with music is it's a frequency. And have you ever like been in your feels? Okay, we're getting vulnerable for a moment. Have you ever just been in your feels and then you just need to listen to a song because it makes you just sadder, and you just need to like just really like just lap that sad feeling, and you almost like don't want to listen to something happy because you're like, oh, I need to feel my feelings. But if you were to do that, like let's say, I don't know, put on some Cardi B or Fergie or whatnot, like it can change your mood around instantly, because like it takes you out of that headspace, and it does things to your brain. There's all this science behind it, and some pseudoscience too. We won't get into that, but there's reasons that we like music, and we like concerts, and Taylor Swift brought like, I don't know, like $3 billion to the economy, whatever. Anyway, moving on. Playing a silly board game with friends, Cards Against Humanity, yes, oh god. Going on a walk and spotting weird cloud shapes. Oh, and this is my favorite. Okay, so taking a different route on a commute, or somewhere that you go often, and just taking a wrong turn just because you're curious on where the road goes, right? That's literally a metaphor for life. Oh, okay, so remember when you were a kid and you thought, man, like when I'm a grown up, I'm gonna have so much freedom and I can do whatever I want. I can go wherever I want. I can eat ice cream for breakfast. Like, treat yourself to that kid moment, because you worked really hard to get there. And I did this live stream where I was just hanging out, and I was like, what am I going to talk about in a live stream? Like, I don't play video games really. So it's like, am I just like, what do people talk about in live streams? So what I did is I got a bunch of stuff, like slime and just like these like fidget toy things that I just got on Amazon. And I just like unboxed them on camera and was like talking about it just to have something busy and just fun to do. And it was so fun and weird. Why not? Why not? Treat yourself to that kid moment. I know as professionals, we think like, okay, like where is this going? What is the goal? What is the objective? But it doesn't have to be that way. Play doesn't have to be productive. It's kind of the point. It doesn't have to be pretty or coloring in the lines. It just has to make you feel alive again. So when you give yourself permission to play just even for 5 minutes, maybe that's all you have in the day. You're just reminding yourself that it's safe to rest, and you're rewiring for joy and not survival. Thing number 3, mindfulness. Okay, so if you've never practiced mindfulness, it's honestly been one of the most powerful tools I've accessed. And I'm not trying to take this podcast into like a just super meta brainwave direction, but just trust me on this. So the concept here is inherently very simple. All it is just giving your thoughts and emotions permission to exist without attachment or judgment. And why this concept is so powerful is because sometimes we feel like we are our thoughts and emotions. We get so wrapped up in our anxiety or our pain or our frustration that it can kind of take over. And I've seen both sides of it, from when I used to teach yoga in studios and when I worked on kind of the business B2B side of mindfulness in the workplace, just to see how effective it is, and the actual research on it. There is actual research done on mindfulness that it helps expand the gray matter in your brain, and those regions involve things like learning and memory processing, emotional regulation, and self-awareness. And these are literal skills that you can develop with things like mindfulness-based stress reduction. It improves your well-being. It's like a muscle that you work on that you can strengthen. And the best part is you have all of the tools to do that. For example, if you're breathing right now, congratulations, you're pretty much a pro. You're halfway there. Breathing is literally like the half of mindfulness. So cool. You also don't have to block an hour off and sit in lotus pose. It's not even about dumping your thoughts or clearing your mind, because that's really stressful, and maybe you need some of that stuff in your mind. But you can practice mindfulness in 30 seconds. You can do it while moving. You can do it while listening to music. Here's an example. I love this one. It's called the 5 Senses Meditation. And you can do this by going out for a walk. It doesn't even have to be in a quiet room. Okay, so how to practice the 5 Senses Meditation. I'm not going to take you through it because we got stuff to do. But if you want to see a whole episode on it, let me know. But it basically entails taking a few seconds to drop into your breath, taking a few generous inhales, and then using your sense of sight. You look around you and silently name 5 things that you can see. You notice the colors and shapes and the lights in your environment. Pay attention to details that you might overlook, like the texture of a wall or the way that light reflects on a surface. Then shift your focus to what you can hear. So 4 things that you can hear. Start by tuning into the most obvious sounds, like maybe the air conditioning running, maybe like chatter in the background, and then gradually move to more subtle ones. Maybe you'll hear the hum of traffic or birds chirping, or maybe even your breath. Next, bring your attention to 3 things you can feel. Notice the sensation of your body against the chair or the floor, the texture of your clothing on your skin, or the air temperature on your skin. You can also reach out and touch what's in your immediate environment, like a wall or a tree or the microphone. You can also bring attention to your hands or feet, or even the subtle movement of your breath. So next, focus on your sense of smell. Maybe you notice the scent of the room. Maybe it's fresh air if you're outside, or maybe even your freshly washed or not freshly washed clothing. And if you can't smell anything distinct, that's okay. Just maybe note the absence of strong smells. And then finally, okay, yes, that was 2. So one, bring your attention to your sense of taste. Maybe you have lingering taste of a recent meal, a drink, or just simply the taste of your mouth. And just notice kind of what that's like. Have you ever stopped and thought about, like, what's your tongue doing right now? Like, where is it sitting in your mouth? Yeah, it's weird. But it kind of creates those new pathways in your brain to your senses and just kind of like wakes you up a little bit. And then the last thing, your environment. I think it's really important to make a home in your mind, but your surroundings can greatly influence how you feel. I was recently researching for an article about chromiotherapy, which is basically using color to boost your mood, energy, and well-being. And there's very limited research on it, but anecdotally, it says a lot. For example, blues and greens. Those are nature's OG stress relievers. And, during the day, they're the most abundant natural color. And this combination kind of creates this atmosphere that's tranquil and refreshing. Just look up at a clear sky next time, or across an ocean if you have access to one, on a bright sunny day. Another color example, yellow is like an instant mood lift. It can help spark creativity, excitement. And I read this and I thought it was so delightful. It's like a serotonin boost for the soul. So love that for yellow. So yeah, ask yourself if there's an environment that you can create, even if it's just a corner in your home if you have like a you room, like a get ready room, amazing. But I know not everyone has a ton of space. I live in a 1-bedroom in Los Angeles that I share with my boyfriend, but I still make it work. For me personally, so it's my bed. It's something that I've invested in. A few years ago, I saved up for this really, really, really nice sheet set, and I did all of the research, and it turns out there's so much more with sheets besides thread count. There's like the type of cotton, like Pima and Percal. It's a whole thing. So I just got a really nice set of sheets, and I just kind of like slowly built like my dream sleep space. And I think I mentioned earlier, like I have a weighted blanket, I have a fluffy comforter, and these are expenses that I literally saved up for, but I'm like, this is going to bring me joy, so I want to invest in this because my ROI is like just me feeling good, and can't put a price on that. So yeah, it took me a while to do because nice sheets are no joke. But I do that for myself. Okay, so I wanted to save the jargon jar for the very end because we were talking about getting cozy. And I didn't want to throw in corporate jargon in the middle of that. So for jargon jar, I like to roast common or corporate jargon that's boring and cringy. And this episode is from Erica, who is at Dream Minty on Instagram. The jargon that we cannot stand in this episode is circle back. And her comment was, we're constantly circling, we're never going anywhere. And it cracks me up because when someone says they'll circle back, it's like a universal signal for like, I have no idea what you're asking right now, and I just don't emotionally, I have not budgeted an answer for that. Please never bring it up again. It reminds me of like I'm from Florida, so like the Daytona 500, just like vroom, just circling back, just never getting anywhere. So we're going to be honest here. I am so guilty of saying circling back, and I just like loathe myself for it. I'm so embarrassed for myself. But other ways to approach it, I actually heard recently loop back around, which is essentially the same thing, but like a twist, a modern twist on a classic corporate America jargon. And I wish I had like a clever answer for this one. For circle back, like how can we make that better? Like I'll get back to you, like could we use that? But if you guys have any ideas, I'm all ears. So if you have any jargon that you cannot stand and you want to roast it, let's do that together. I'd love to share it. DM me at jeanswiththeblazer on Instagram, or send an email to hello@jeanswiththeblazer.com. So I hope this episode was a nice little break from your day and that you're able to add a little softness wherever you can. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll chat with you guys next time. Next time on Jeans with a Blazer. So I have this very, very polarizing belief. I think that it should be a requirement by law that everyone in their lifetime should have a job that's either in hospitality or retail, or both. If you have one in both, then you're automatically promoted in the workforce because that's a beast of a job. I have so much respect for anyone who has been in or is currently in one of these positions because it's hard work. Your feet hurt at the end of the day. It's not fun. It can be, but generally you wouldn't choose to be there, right? But the things that you learn here will take you so far. Okay, so in today's episode, I'm going to share some lessons that I've learned working in the hospitality industry. I have worked in a coffee shop as a barista and a server in a restaurant. And these lessons you could apply to not just a different career path, but I believe you can apply these lessons in life as well. That's a wrap on this episode of Jeans with a Blazer. If today's conversation gave you something to think about, a mindset shift, or just the push you needed, do me a favor. Subscribe to the podcast so you never miss an episode. Leave a review wherever you enjoy your podcasts. It helps more people find it, and it keeps these conversations going. And I love hearing from you. Follow at Jeans with a Blazer and tag me with your biggest takeaways, your latest wins, or just tell me what topics you want to hear about next. See you next time.